Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with the eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
Greetings to everybody out there in podcast land. I am Kelly Bass, and it's my honor to host Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly chat with people who have helped make the Mid-South dining scene one of the most vibrant in the country. I'm a foodie from way back, much longer than the term has been around, and I've spent a better part of 30 years writing restaurant reviews and features for Little Rock, Arkansas-based newspapers, and then later for magazines. But now I just talk about food rather than write about it, and that is a swap I will take every time. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a food operation in Northwest Arkansas that's serving a noble and much-needed purpose that goes beyond just serving food. In their case, serving food for free. My guests today are Meredith Chapuis and Dylan McClure of For the Love, an inspiring operation that serves 3 cities in Northwest Arkansas. So welcome, Meredith, and welcome, Dylan.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. Before we look back to the beginnings of For the Love, and before we get into the other aspects of what makes this organization so important and so impressive, let's focus on the food. Tell us what you serve, who you serve, where you serve, and how much and how many people you usually serve.
Yeah, we serve in 3 cities. Locally, we serve in Bentonville, Arkansas, Springdale, Arkansas, and Rogers, Arkansas. And the food varies. Chef Dylan picks the menus each week. We like to give our neighbors rotation. We don't want them to get bored with the same thing every week. And so he creates menus, and we serve about 250 to 300 at each event. So last month, we served a little over 3,000 people.
Wow, that is really impressive. Do you do it the same night in each of the 3 cities, or is it different place on different night?
It is different nights in each city. So we're in Springdale on Mondays, Tuesday, and Rogers and Bentonville on Thursdays.
Cool. And the rest of the time you're getting ready to do it again, I guess. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll tell you both. I give your website very high marks. I encourage all of our listeners. All right, I'm going to give you listeners just a minute. Grab a pen and write this down, okay? Because I can't put a link on an audio podcast. www.forthelovenwa. It's .com, right? Not .org, but .com?
.com.
Correct? Yeah. For the Love NWA, as in Northwest Arkansas.com. And so, again, write it down, forthelovenwa.com. And I'll tell you, I adore the first sentences of the About Us section. So let me just read that. There are various types of hunger. It is our desire to not only feed the stomach, but feed the soul. And then the next sentence, For the Love is a 501c3 nonprofit that exists to feed the hungry locally, gather community, create service opportunities, and empower families. There is a whole lot packed into those brief phrases. So we know about the feeding. Talk a little bit about the gathering community, creating service opportunities, and empowering families, because that takes it to a different level.
Yeah. Dylan, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you think about any family gathering, you think about food. Thanksgiving dinner, getting all together. And that's one big thing for us is, if we want to gather our community around, one really good way to do that is, set out a dinner table and give them some great food to eat. So that's one thing we do is we try to bring that community together. So that way, people can network, get to know each other, people in different, circles that would never ever get to know each other. They have a chance out at neighbor nights to connect and, kind of see how the other lives and kind of see how they can kind of help each other out.
Well, I think that's great because it's not like a food court. You don't line up, grab your food, walk away and never see anybody again. So that then, and again, on the website, you'll see videos and you'll see pictures that show you what this is all about. Again, I'm a word guy. I spent 18 years in the newspaper business, so it means more to me than maybe to some. But I mean, how simple. Feed people, love people. Those words are incorporated into your logo. And I guess really not trying to be corny, but it really is just as simple as that, right? Feed people, love people.
It really is. I feel like what we do is so simple. We're literally just sharing a meal around the table with neighbors that don't necessarily look like us, don't run in the same social circles as us. But the benefits that brings to each and every one of us, that we just get to sit down and share a meal together. It really is so simple.
Yeah, I know it sounds simple, but boy, not many people are doing it the way you're doing it. So, okay, listeners, you've already gotten your first homework assignment, which is writing down forthelovenwa.com. And now you got a second assignment, and there will be a test on this. So do not think you can goof off. It's to go to the About Us section on that website and spend the best 4 minutes and 47 seconds you'll spend this month or probably any month watching the For the Love video. At least a couple of folks who have used your services and are clients of yours who come to your feeds and then also stay around and enjoy the company. Do you know of any success stories that have kind of sprung from your work? Do you know about people who have found a way to maybe improve their station in life?
Yes, for sure. I feel like we don't share a lot of those on social media because we want to be respectful of people's individual stories and allowing them to share those. We want to always do that with dignity, but we have seen so many neighbors that were currently home insecure that now have houses, that were in addiction, that are sober, that needed employment, that found employment. In fact, one of them, this was several months ago, but found employment literally waiting in line for dinner. The gentleman behind him was the manager at a local factory, and he was looking for a job, and they struck up a conversation, and that led to him getting an interview and getting a job at that factory. And this was a family that had been struggling because of some stuff that was in his background that was making it hard for him to find employment. And literally just getting to know a neighbor in line, he was able to take steps of upward mobility.
Well, that right there makes it all worthwhile. It's just, I know that's heartwarming and it just validates the mission of what you guys are doing. And I know we'll talk more. In fact, now let's just go back to the beginning. Again, your video was very informative, and it told me that it was in 2020 at the height of really the COVID-19 pandemic that Meredith, you and two other women that you're friends with are listed as founders. So can you just talk us through the process by which you conceived the idea and later hatched it, as well as just the nature of the relationship between the three of you?
Yeah, Melinda, Jennifer, and myself, we have been friends for a lot of years. And during COVID, we like to go on runs together. So after we put our kids to bed, we left our husbands at home. And for our sanity, because everything was shut down at that point, we were really isolated. We went on runs around the neighborhood together. And naturally, when you're running and you just come up with crazy ideas. But in reality, we were just seeing a lot of needs in our community. A lot of the food banks were temporarily closed because everyone was trying to figure out how to do things safely. And so we were literally seeing neighbors in our own community in Bentonville that feels very fancy and everyone has great jobs. And often we kind of think of it as a bubble and there's not needs here. But when we started looking at the statistics of families that actually live here, we were like, we need to do something. Like, what can our families do? And in that moment, we kind of thought, we're just going to cook a lasagna and we're going to feed someone.
Right.
we should add that this is really where Dylan comes in, because none of us like to cook.
Oh,
and our husbands would all agree with that.
That's great. Well, just again, putting your heads together. That's fabulous. And
we just
seeing the need.
Went for it. Like, we sat down with a mentor, and we thought they were going to tell us that we were crazy, and they said, "You need to do this, and we're going to invest some money." And that led to us connecting with DHS and school counselors and inviting people that were food insecure to come share a meal.
That's so basic and so great. So, Dylan, tell us how you got involved with Meredith and her team with For the Love.
Yeah, so I've been working in the food industry since I was 15 years old. So I mean, I was working at a restaurant as an executive chef, and I was pulling those 65 to 75 hour work weeks. And, I've got a beautiful wife and two beautiful little girls. And, I was watching them kind of grow up through a phone screen. And I got to the point where I just wanted to be able to spend more time with my family. And, I've always loved to be able to take care of people, give back. I'm the type of person, I'll stop and change somebody's tire on the side of the road. So when I saw an opportunity to basically be able to put both of those passions together, plus have the time with my family, it was just a true blessing. And it was during a time where I was looking for a change, and, I prayed hard for a change. And, in less than 24 hours, I had that, come up on Indeed, popped in an application, and here we are.
That's fabulous. And, one of the themes of the podcast that I've done over the years for Heaping Spoonful is the joy that chefs get from seeing people enjoy their food. And I know it's got to be even better when you're feeding people who couldn't have afforded to come eat at the restaurant where you once worked, and now they get to eat your great food and improve not just their moment to moment life that evening, but also, it's great.
I mean, just like you said, I've worked in restaurants where, like, my family and I would not be able to afford to come in and sit down for a dinner. But that's the prices we charged.
Oh, I understand.
So to be able to, sit down and be able to have these meals, and nobody has to worry about price or anything. It's just an open, safe environment for everybody to come out and enjoy a great meal. I mean, it's just an amazing feeling.
And they're not being created by three women who don't like to cook. They're being created by a guy who's been a professional chef for a long time. There's that too. Not that Meredith, not that your families have gone hungry, and maybe your husbands are all good cooks too. But anyway, don't even go there. But I'm so glad that we've got Dylan creating the food that then is what you share through For the Love. So when you look at your website, you see a lot of people are involved. And Meredith, you said you started talking to friends and neighbors and colleagues and others who said, "Hey, I'll invest in helping you guys make this happen." So you've got board members, you've got team leads in each city where you operate. Are these mostly volunteers? Or are there, other than Dylan, are there paid members of the For the Love staff?
Yeah, we are almost all volunteer run. So we are board members. That first mentor that we sat down with, he is on our board today. We have 10 board members, and our team leaders who really are key to making Neighbor Night successful, because they are familiar faces that are there every single week. And they know the mission and the vision of For the Love. Sure. So when new neighbors come, they can share that. But they are just volunteers. And all of them are people that we just met because they were coming. And they kept coming back, and they kept serving. And so that led to us asking them, would you like to be a team leader? And so far, they've all said yes.
Well, that's great infrastructure, people infrastructure. And I'm sure the consistency of having some of those folks there week in, week out makes it a very comforting situation for your clients who come and enjoy a meal and enjoy time together. So, all right, everybody, it's time to take a short break here on Heaping Spoonful. So hang out for just a minute. We'll be right back with more from Meredith and Dylan of For the Love.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Kelly Bass.
Welcome back to Heaping Spoonful as we continue our conversation with Meredith and Dylan. So I learned about For the Love from our friends at Benny Keith Mid-South, the founders and sponsors of the Heaping Spoonful podcast. So that must mean that you guys are a Benny Keith customer. I'm hopeful that you don't have to buy all the food that you serve, that sometimes you get food donated. What's kind of the model for all of that?
So yeah, I mean, I've used Benny Keith before in the past at other corporate jobs that I've had. And I've always really loved working with Benny Keith. So I figured, let's try and get that set up. And honestly, we have a really great chef friend that we work with named Chef Dan Concepcion. He's over at the Sam's Club corporate office. He runs the cafeteria and the food over there for them. And I was talking to him one day because he would help me out with some products. And I was like, man, I really need to get set up with a national food provider. And he was like, well, hey, let me get you somebody's number. I think he can get you set up. And I'm going to give a big shout out to my rep, Abel Mendoza, amazing guy. As soon as I gave him a call, I mean, he just came by, did everything he could to get us set up as quick as possible. And yeah, so I mean, he's got us set up with you guys through Benny Keith. And I mean, it's been an absolute godsend to have you guys.
Good. Do you also, I mean, so do you, anyway, does all that food that you serve come from them, or do you have other donors that actually provide some food that doesn't cost you?
So we actually have Tyson and Pepsi. So Pepsi helps out with donating a ton of drinks for us. And Tyson, I mean, you want to talk about thousands and thousands of pounds of chicken. I mean, they have just gone above and beyond to help us out there. So
that's great. That is, yeah, and they've got a reputation for being generous with particularly helping those who really need the help. So overall, I'm between, again, getting some food donated and I guess you all just do some fundraisers or have annual gifts or, online gifts. And what is your overall funding model to make sure you can keep moving forward, Meredith?
Yes, very similar to what you just said. We do apply for grants, and we also have individual sponsors, individuals that just live in our community that come and serve and fall in love with what we're doing and support us financially. And then we have local corporate partners that give monthly, quarterly as sponsors for different events. And so all of that just kind of meshes together to make it possible.
Yeah, is that something that you and your partners who founded the program, is that one of the ways you all spend quite a bit of your time?
It is, yes.
I figured, yeah.
Working on grants and fundraising events and donor development for sure.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm actually, my day job is I run a nonprofit in Little Rock, and I spend a lot of time doing that as well, so no doubt. And Dylan, you're in charge of what all the For the Love program participants eat. So you just are in constant menu development and you have certain themes. I know Meredith said earlier, you all don't want people to get bored. So I'm guessing you rotate out different sorts of food. Kind of, how does all that come together?
Yeah. So, I mean, even though the ladies, say that they don't know how to cook, before I came along, they had some pretty awesome staples already going that the neighbors love to have. So, I was able to keep those in rotation and also add a few other things just to switch it up a little bit. I mean, we just, we want to basically be able to give anybody, the taste of going to any kind of restaurant. So, we just did barbecue this week. We've got some amazing friends that'll smoke off the pork for us. We'll do, barbecue chicken and potato salad and coleslaw. And then we'll even do a week where, it's all pasta. And then, so like even this next week when we do a, neighbor night in Springdale, we're going to go with pupusas, kind of switch it up, do a little bit more of a cultural thing there. And then we'll also be able to support, a local restaurant down there by buying the pupusas through them. Multiple ways to get back there.
That's cool. So, again, the video and hearing what you all talk about, tells me there's more things to do at your sites, your neighbor nights, than line up and get served food. I mean, it looks like that people are engaged in activities. You have tables, people are sitting around talking. As you said, one of your folks got a job because they were in line with someone who was hiring. So what's the overall experience? I mean, is it sort of like you say, we get our food, then we sit and we have a communal meal and we chat and we throw a Frisbee or do whatever? And what are the nights, assuming weather's fine and all that, what are the nights kind of like?
Dylan, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, our nights are just, you think of just like, I don't know, just kind of like a backyard cookout with your family. We've got picnic tables set up. We've got benches out there, music. Sometimes if we can get live music, we'll have that. It's just fun. You see the kids running around playing together. It's just a really good break from, the monotonous day-to-day life.
Sure. Well, that sounds great. And we're recording this episode of Heaping Spoonful on September 15th. And if I'm reading things right, it looks like tonight you've got a big event, the Fun Gala. First, if that's still the case, thanks for making time to talk to our Heaping Spoonful listeners on a morning of a big day. So tell us about that event and its purpose.
Yeah, it is tonight. It is our annual fundraising event, and it's similar to a gala, but we model it to look like a neighbor night. So it is outdoors. The tables are connected, so it's like long tables, but we have corporate teams that will come, but their table will be connected to someone else that they don't know, similar to what you would experience at a neighbor night, where you would sit with a neighbor that you had never met before. We'll play Bago and Connect Four, because those are games that we play at neighbor nights. And we will share some neighbor stories. Last week, the week before, Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we surpassed 40,000 meals that we've served locally. And so we're going to celebrate that tonight with 400 friends that have come together to celebrate with us. So we want it to be a night of fun and celebrating what we've seen in our community, the upward mobility that we've seen in neighbors, and raise money to make that possible for us to keep doing that.
Well, that's great. And I will tell you that the weather is beautiful in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it's usually a few degrees cooler northwest. I hope you have a beautiful night for it. Does that look like it's going to be pretty?
The weather looks
It's
fantastic, actually. It's always a risk.
Oh, I know. And, it's been 100 for who knows how long. So I have even more appreciation for a little bit of Christmas in the air. And it is football season and all. Okay, Heaping Spoonful listeners, hang with me, because we've had 2 homework assignments, and now you have homework assignment number 3, okay? Go back to the For the Love website, which we all know, and we've written it down. It's forthelovenwa.com. Click Get Involved, then click Donate, and give these folks some money. I will tell you, and I don't know how close you all look at this, I took the plunge. I gave the modest amount it takes to feed a family of 4. It's easy. You can do it. You can afford it. They can use the help. So please, all you Heaping Spoonful listeners, go to the website, get involved, donate. It's a few clicks. So I will say that those of us in Central Arkansas, and we've talked about this, we think of Northwest Arkansas as the land of plenty. When I go to Bentonville, I've stayed at 21C. I've left my car sitting for a while. I've walked the square, gone to the farmer's market, eaten at the restaurants, walked down to Crystal Bridges, checked out the mountain biking trails, Walton Mega Wealth, yada, yada, yada. But Meredith, you and your friends and partners and Dylan, all of you all have seen that there are people in that part of the world who are food insecure, and you now feed them and have fed 40,000 meals. Were you surprised by the size of the situation, or is it just everywhere that in our country and in our world, there's always people who are food insecure?
Yeah, I think that it is definitely a surprise to most people, specifically in Benton County, that there is food insecurity here. I think we hide it very well between pretty buildings and fancy cars. When our volunteers serve at our Bentonville location, they are often shocked that neighbors that don't have transportation walk, and we're in downtown Bentonville.
Right.
But that gives us an opportunity for some education and to talk about food insecurity and what it looks like and what we're doing to fight it. And so it is surprising. We didn't know how many neighbors we had locally that were in need because of the bubbles that we were living in. But now that we know, now that we have met our neighbors, we know their names, we know their faces, we have to keep fighting to feed them, keep their bellies full.
Yeah. Well,
and
making
with,
a huge difference.
Working in the food industry for this long, I've always worked on, selling food, and you never see the food insecurity there. So, for me, it was kind of a big eye-opening moment once I came to For the Love and started working there of, it's a lot more than just judging a book by its cover. Food insecurity comes in all different shapes and sizes. And, it could be someone who's dressed up, button up, collared shirt, slacks, but they might not have $1 to spend for food. So it's been a big eye-opening moment when you work in kind of an up-and-coming, food mecca that is Northwest Arkansas, and then to go over towards a nonprofit, restaurant, basically. It's a big eye-opening moment of kind of the issues that are city.
Sure. Well, listen, I want to thank you both, Meredith and Dylan, for being my guests today on Heaping Spoonful, and continued good luck to you and the team that's making a huge difference for people and for the community in Northwest Arkansas. And before we close, I want to tell you, I was having a conversation with some of my friends here at Benny Keith, and I said, Benny Keith should do something to help this organization. So the folks said, you know what, we'll give $1,000 of free food to For the Love. And then Rusty Mathis, I don't know if y'all have got to meet Rusty. Rusty is my friend, but he's also the general manager here at Benny Keith. He said, let's make it $2,000. So you're going to get $2,000 of food without an invoice from Benny Keith. They applaud you for what you're doing. They appreciate you for being a client, and now they want to step up and do a little something to help you out.
Oh, you guys are amazing. That's really going to come in handy for next week.
Great. Well, I'm sure the word will filter down, but if your rep doesn't know about it, you just tell him to talk to his district sales manager and the folks up here in corporate Benny Keith Mid-South, and they'll take care of you on that. So I also want to thank all of you who tuned into Heaping Spoonful. I know that you're taking your homework seriously. You've done all 3 things that we've asked you to do, and I thank you for that. I thank you for that. I thank Benny Keith Foods for letting us do these podcasts. And remember that we put 2 of these podcasts out every month on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays, to be exact. So please check them out. Catch up on any episodes you haven't listened to yet. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.